Movember. Okay, fantastic. So everyone, I'm going to have a really exciting presentation today. And I've kind of feel like I've gotten into a little bit of a zone on how I can help you the most. So I'm going to be doing that. There's going to be a lot of things I'm going to be giving you guys that you'll be able to use to make money after this webinar, and that's part of my whole goal. But before we start there, and I don't know if Scott noticed, but in the general chat, can everyone see where I posted? Please click on this link and cast your vote for Trade Ideas. I just want to make sure you guys can see that in the general chat of the presentation. So basically all this is that we are, again, nominated for the best screening technology by Benzinga for 2016. And we would love your vote. If you're here, obviously you're a fan of Trade Ideas, and it helps us to get the word out that, again, our customers appreciate it. So let's jump right in here, and let's talk about capturing alpha. Before we do that, the standard disclaimer: Trade Ideas is not a registered investment advisor. So the information that I'm going to be providing for you today, this evening, is for educational and informational purposes only. Let's jump right in, but before I do that, this is really one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to do it a little bit differently today. My first slide is hopes and dreams, and I caught this on Twitter. A gentleman I followed, who might be in this webinar actually, posted this, and I just loved it. So I really, because it communicates to me the pain that everybody in the market tries to kind of either hide from, avoid, get rid of, or be able to conquer. And this little thread, this Twitter thread, the reason I put this up here is to basically say, don't be here. If you find yourself tweeting about a position that isn't going your way, it's already too late. So look at these people, like, there's the hope, and there's this need, NEOT loving this dip so I can get even more shares. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the opposite of crime, okay? And the reason this lesson, just from here, you're the Q&A webinar, we're going to be showing you ways to capture alpha. But the reason I bring this up is no matter how we tell you to capture alpha, no matter what we're going to show you, ultimately, once you're in something, you are going to have to be able to make some decisions. Okay? And that's what we want to help you do better at Trade Ideas, and we're going to talk about that today. So for me, one of the things that I've realized that is the best way to show you the power of Trade Ideas is really not to talk about functionality, but to talk about alpha. So what I'm going to do is, this whole presentation is really about sorting and lists, but I'm not going to be talking about it from right clicks and tabs. I'm going to be talking about it from the concept of hidden gems, finding stuff that's really interesting that we might all be able to profit from, and I'm going to show you how I did it. Plus, every list that I have here, number one, you can write down these symbols if you're not a Trade Ideas customer to keep an eye. Number two, if you are a Trade Ideas customer, we can give these lists to you. We share our information so that you can profit from it. So let me talk to you about this list, what I did with it, and how you hopefully can profit. So this list is called Hidden Gems. And lists are a great way to kind of isolate your view onto something, on candidates that are what I call setting up. Okay. By the way, Western Digital is not on this list. I just had this stock up. So what I want to do is I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about what I did to do it, and show you how simple concepts can really provide power. So we track not just technical data. Again, you probably heard me say this all the time. Trade Ideas does not really care about the validity of fundamental versus technical versus social data. It's a moot point because every single data point can be used. The point is that data point right now giving us any benefit, you know? So one of the things I'm going to showcase is how you combine both the fundamental and the price action together to form things, excuse me, that are really possibly candidates for alpha. So in this case, what I'm looking at is stocks that have a very high quarterly revenue growth. So here's one that is first on this list, and it's called Aduro Biotech. Okay, notice again, I'm kind of showing you guys that I use all of our technology. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why, for example, is this stock possibly interesting? You know, let's discuss that real quick. So obviously, you can quickly go to the profile and you can see what it's doing. It's a clinical stage oncology company. So right when you see this word oncology, you can almost like, look, at this point, you don't need to worry about all the research and the data like that NEOT. Okay, so see like these people right here that are, oh, I can't wait to get it at a better price. I mean, no, that's not what's happening. Now, mind you, whatever happened, you know, here, if you were long here, most likely you could not have been, you couldn't avoid this. But the mess that this has caused, we are going to be able to profit from NEOT, but not the people who were in here earlier. So I'm just saying that this is what pain feels like, and we've seen it in other names. It all looks good until it doesn't. Let me repeat that. It all looks good until it doesn't. This does not mean, again, that, oh, I'm going to be scared. It just means that we go with what we have. I mean, some things are unavoided. You play within yourself. But the point that I'm making is simply that there is a lot of volatility in the markets, and we're just trying to position ourselves for things that could really go and have possibly a reason why. So this ADRO, again, this stock, I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. You know, it's kind of formed this base bottom and has had an incredible move from here, from 1878 to 31. Now, listen, this stock is still here, and the reason that it's on this list is that, you know, the height of its range is kind of in this area, so it's still like at the 50 percentile. But it has a lot of the other things that make this potentially a very strong mover that could continue to explode upwards. So the number one, again, look at this revenue growth, 670% quarterly revenue growth. Although we don't look at fundamentals specifically, you can at least point, whatever they're doing, the market is reflecting positively on it. Shorts are trying to cover the short growth. That means they're getting smaller. They have almost $500 million in cash, no debt, and they actually make some money. So this is where, again, hidden gem. I mean, over here in April, right, we're talking about a $49, $50 stock. Right now it's at 30. So what I would say is let's look for, I mean, you have to kind of be brave and play it potentially in either direction. So either look for this breakout above 32, or if it pulls back, keep an eye on a pullback and then continue higher. So by the way, everyone, I'm going to, you know, the second half I'm going to be talking about the AI, and all the trades will be covered, so hold tight. This is, again, this QA is really more about capturing some alpha. AX, DX, diagnostics. Okay, a little bit, look at this. Again, 475 quarterly revenue growth. Look at this move off of the bottom right here. You know, what you're seeing is you are able to notice some of the other research people that are saying, wait a minute, something is good here. You know, this whole move points us into the candidate of, wow, this thing could potentially, you know, really test new highs. So again, for me, this whole lesson is we will give this to you, but this is basically called hidden gems because what you have is tremendous quarterly revenue growth, but coupled with a relatively not that strong position of this year's trading. What that means is this is a supply and demand inefficiency. Either for whatever reasons, and we don't know what those reasons are, but someone's not paying attention to what's happening. I mean, this is another perfect example here. Okay, you have revenue, you have cash. I mean, this is what these companies do. You have huge quarterly revenue growth, and the question is, you know, are the valuations valid? So DNA, again, something else that's very, you know, in the news as we're all trying to figure out a way to use DNA to either cure diseases, including possibly cancer, or just improve lives in general. So this is where we find the candidates that are just being ignored. Now, the other reason that they're being ignored by everybody primarily is that stocks that have smaller floats and that don't trade the kind of volume that you get on CNBC, they're ignored by everyone, but that's where alpha is hiding. Okay, so Farid and everyone else, as per usual, just so that you guys know, I am going to share every single link. All you will have to do is, again, just shoot an email to info@trade-ideas.com, and I'm going to show you all of this. So we want to, and also what I like here is that notice how I want to give you something that's not overwhelming. Sometimes too much information is too much information. I want to give you something you can focus on even if you weren't glued to the computer all day long. Trade Ideas is not just for uber active, you know, guys that are sitting there banging away. I want to provide you alpha candidates that you can get in and maybe not have to trade that much. So here's another example. Okay, here you have solar edge technology. Solar has been in play, big revenues, huge pile of cash, nice quarterly revenue growth, small float. All of this is a recipe for huge movements to the upside. And again, just, you know, look at the key for success in equities investing, right, for an individual is to position yourself well and to be able to deal with the risk, right? I mean, we talked about some of the things like ZFGN and NEOT. They will not, if you're in them on a swing trade and they gap down like that, it can't be avoided. Those things happen. Okay, but we, being the nimble, engaged investors, we move around. Okay, and what this is showing you is that something's happening here, you know, and especially also remember where there's something else just about the big picture of equities investing. Consider that we are like in the end of the year, and a lot of these stocks just have gone beat up, basically. Okay, here's another example of one. Okay, 2U software, revenues, cash, you know, revenue growth. And here it's making this bottom. So these stocks that have gotten beat up, or beat up relatively speaking, you know, come January 1, right? Hedge funds, you know, it's a new year in terms of tax purposes. So you are able to accumulate positions kind of starting fresh. And some of these stocks are just at relative attractive levels if you talk about just, you know, quarterly revenue growth and commensurate position in where the stock is in its range. So that's that simple. So hidden gems, I'm going to show you again. I use the configuration part of the window, and then I sort it by different things. So what I can do here is I want to see these stocks that have the biggest short float to it. Okay, so look, I'm going to notice how I said short float and biggest on top. So this is the configuration window for hidden gems. I can do something different. I can say, okay, instead of that, maybe show me the stocks with the biggest quarterly revenue growth only. So see, the list gets a little bit bigger. And there you go. Still with a relatively, you know, relatively big enough short growth. So this is, again, there's a couple of things here also to kind of put together. If you have a stock, okay, that has, like this is the example of AXDX, and this is why I really wanted to kind of point this out. So this is, in equities trading or in investing, you know, sometimes it's an Occam's razor approach to things that make sense. You know, people spend so much time on things like, hey, I need a fib level or an 8-period EMA or a 200-period EMA, and those things are just numbers, okay? But combining relevant numbers, like for example, if you got a 39% of a 20 million float stock short, or like 40% short, I mean, you know, this thing could move. This one too. That's how it's not just simply value of the company or what the company does. It's a combination of everything. It's seasonality. It's how are other people positioned in it. You know, so when you are seeing this data and you see the combination of short float and gigantic relative quarterly revenue growth, you really can start to kind of put the right names on your radar, because, you know, this is the whole thing. I mean, this is what causes explosive alpha, and once again, you are not going to hear about these stocks on CNBC. That's the reason that you're here. You know, we're talking about names that are being ignored by everyone because nobody has the data to look at them, and the whole market structure is so screwed up right now with all these billion-dollar float companies. It's like the whole world assumes that it's just mutual funds and gigantic pension funds that are investing. But we are the new venture capitalists. Individual investors like you and I who can move around quickly, we have the potential to be in, take advantage of moves, either ride them for as long as they need to be, but if we're wrong, we can get out. That's the key. Okay? So, hidden gems. Everyone will have it. What I'm going to actually do now is I'm going to right-click. I'm going to say Save, Share, and here's the link. I'm going to copy it, and I'm actually going to paste it right into the chat of the webinar. So now you guys have it. So next thing, I'm going to move this window. Notice again, I'm just kind of doing it one window at a time. And I'm putting concepts in that you're going to see, and what you're going to see is more than one stock that you saw here under Hidden Gems will also possibly be over here in a window called Squeeze Me. So again, what I'm trying to do here, guys, I'm trying to show you how to use lists and sorting, simple concepts, to just draw out alpha candidates, things to explode. I mean, one that I really want to point out is Solar City. I mean, we have been all over this one. It was I think it was a trade of the week. I don't even remember when, but I know it was a trade of the week. And it's basically gone up close to 10 points. We've called it, and this is the combination of why this happens. Okay, look at what's happening in Solar City. Okay, you have. And notice, I mean, I'm not making this up. I'm showing you what's happening. So look at this. You have a 95% increase in quarterly revenue growth. You have a relatively small float, of which every hedge fund in the world seems to be short, which is kind of dangerous, especially if it's still 54% short. Somebody's in pain here. So that's our opportunity. I mean, this is where I, again, was talking about the concepts of that show, Criminal Minds, where instead of guys who are sitting there looking at squiggly lines and drawing X's and O's, be more like a profiler. You don't have to understand every little detail, like what's the news, or did some news break, or did they report earnings? I mean, yes, I mean, some of that information is helpful, but you can make general logical concept leaps. Like, for example, a company that's doing well, where a lot of people are betting against it, and a price is going up, may continue to go up because these people who have bet heavily against, you know, and maybe they were right here, okay? Maybe they got it, boom, you know. But, you know, this right here, we've just what's called fill the void. That means that there's some serious pain in Solar City, and you know, any pullback probably needs to be acquired. So that's why it's called squeeze me, because there's going to be a lot of people who are being squeezed here. Okay, the next squeeze me was also on the quarterly revenue potential, the U2 software. Okay, notice, same things on here. By the way, this bug in the charts, I believe, has been fixed. So notice this. I mean, it's revenue growth, small float, there's some shorts in pain. Okay, you have to watch this because as somebody, you know, as I said before, people make decisions in investing for a number of different reasons. It's kind of like there's so many interesting and good metaphors to like real estate. My friends are all in it. You know, they talk about why do people buy houses? Death, marriage, job, death, divorce, marriage, and job change. Well, this is kind of you have to know those basic things for a stock. Why does a stock go up? One of the big ones of those is short squeeze. So we use the short float and small floats as a formula. We're like chefs, you know. Think about this as another metaphor for why trade ideas, again, finds kind of like really cool stuff. Craft brewery, you know, this business, it's not like beer is something new. Budweiser and Michelob Light, I mean, and Miller, they've been around for like forever, but people realize that, you know, I just don't want something out of like a gigantic Transformers bat. And that's the same thing with the things that you hear on CNBC and that you're kind of being force-fed in other media outlets. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I mean, and this is why I don't watch TV as it relates to financing, but you hear all this stuff about the inverse yields and the treasury auctions, and meanwhile the guys that need to know that stuff actually know it already, and the guys that don't need to know it, which is you and I, need to know about this. Like nobody reports on this information but us, the people who are trying to show you where real alpha is hiding. So again, Solar City, TWOU, let's look at this one, Metro Spaces. Familiar pattern, right? The only difference here, and why potentially this is a little bit more dangerous, is this, the negative quarterly revenue growth. So this kind of goes, again, this kind of goes into the thesis of how all of this happened, right? But remember, too, that the people that are short, and there's still a, you know, first of all, there's a short growth of 22% and almost a 37% short float. If this stock does not go lower, again, they will have to do something. There's the margin involved. Those are the things that we keep an eye on to understand why this stock, again, may actually go up in the face of 64% decreased in quarterly revenue growth. Okay. Now, you notice how, again, we can sort this information. So there's really, out of this whole list, there's just two stocks, Canadian Solar and, and this one that has the quarterly revenue declines. Everyone else in the squeeze me is growing. So if you look at it, here's iRobot. Small quarterly revenue growth, but 16% short float. Again, you've got to keep an eye on it, possibly. I mean, not everything is perfect, but certainly it made a very nice move off of the bottom right here. And it was one of these moves where this does not come up on our radar because it was just a little too jagged. It would have been a little bit harder for individuals to be able to stay in these kind of jaggedy moves. Imagine, again, being here, it looks good only in hindsight when you kind of pull back. So let's see, Tandem. Okay, this one. This one is a really nice move off of the bottom. Okay, a 19% short float. And again, it has quarterly revenue. Okay, so we want to be aware and position in names where we can catch, we're trying to catch these moves. You know, the ones that people are saying, oh, don't try to time the market. Well, of course, if if you're using smoke signals or CNBC, you should not try to time the market. But when you're using sophisticated artificial intelligence-powered analytics, timing the market is okay. And it's not about timing the market; it's about timing your entries and kind of having a case. So the short squeeze, okay, is simply a window that's kind of showing you things that when they start going, there's like more fuel to the fire. Okay, so those, and again, I'm going to right click, save share to cloud, and I'm going to copy and paste this right into the webinar window. So again, all of the windows, just as a reminder, all of the windows will be shared. I'm sharing them in there, and Scott's copying them back. Okay, so I'm moving this, and now I'm going to kind of show you guys a little bit of a different concept. The trade ideas also shows you, I mean, again, I kind of been talking to my partners, and we said, well, you know, we really need to showcase not only the bull case, but the bear case. And we do this in the channel bar, but I am kind of giving you, because again, this is the QA webinar, and I'm giving it to you from a point of view of lists. And what you have here is looking toppy now. Okay? These two things should really spell it. I use a combination of position and ranges for the 20 and the year to really set up something that you will see is looking toppy now, and I'm going to show you again how easy it is to do, and just go through these names, and you'll be able to see why again we put this in there. So I'm going to zoom in. So what does it look like to look toppy? Well, here's JetBlue. I mean, incredible reversal, but then this move is called, this is a degradation of this trend, lower highs, wedging, and then boom. That's a weakness. I mean, that's kind of giving you in poker, it's a tell. Okay, next one, UVV. Whoops. Okay, this is another example of what weakness looks like. Here you have this really nice uptrend, and then a very steep reversal. And again, that's why we say this is looking toppy. Notice it's also in relationship to this initial part of the trend, where this was the base. We would have been looking to find this kind of base and catch this move, okay? But the volatility is making us feel like, on the AI side at least, that this trend, in fact, you can kind of mark up and you can show, let me remove the, so you can look at it and you can see, I think, why it is that this is the other one of the reasons why it looks, again, toppy. There's trend lines that are breaking and the positions. So here's another example. Max Linear, okay? Every one of these charts, guys, is going to look the same. That's specifically done this way so that you can, you can easily kind of work where you have two lists together. In fact, obviously, because Trade Ideas is a very flexible platform, you can just simply create a layout where you can have a combination of hidden gems and things that look toppy completely together. Two different cases. Here they're going to be coming off the bottom, or forming a new uptrend, and here they're really topping. They're getting, they're showing you a sign. And there could be huge potential to the downside. Remember, when markets go down, they go down pretty darn quick. And we are going to be, again, our job is to give you the food for both directions. So this is how we do it. Again, simple lists that really just pick up these exact kind of things that we want to look at. Notice how this, oops, let me put the crosshairs again, so we can see it. Notice how it's, see how the low here is lower than this low. That's what we want to see. Okay, so looking toppy now is a really nice list that I am using to, again, find that stuff that just looks weak. Like here, this is the opposite of the void fill. And again, as everyone knows, and I hope you do, that Trade Ideas, we're not just simply technology providers. We're idea generators in the full sense of this word. So we have a full live trading room run by our director of the room, Barry Einerson. And Barry's constantly spreading his knowledge and showing people how to manage the risk. But Barry and I were both in this room often because, again, that's where our alpha kind of testing environment is. We showcase information there to people. People get updates there first. And this is what's called, like, if you could flip this pattern, Barry and I would be looking to go swing long, something like this. You know, this is where you gap up, and now you're filling this gap. This is a void, and you could see a potential drop, you know, very quickly and possibly lower. So that's the other thing in these webinars. You know, it's not simply me just sitting there trying to, you know, drone you onto how to right-click and use filters. I'm here to give you ideas so you understand why you're doing it, and so that you're not intimidated by all of this, because we can just give this. It's better to learn from a fully functional product than trying to start it from scratch. Okay, so again, we got this one. Let's see, what's another good one that I know I was watching before? Let's see if this was one. Again, this is the concept here is similar, and just like with the other window, the key is arming yourself so that you are putting yourself in the best place for capturing this alpha when it presents itself. And that's why we talk about alpha is really hiding in these names that you almost just don't hear anywhere else but on Trade Ideas, partly because the capital structure in the market makes it such that these names are ignored. Okay, so here's another example. See this? Okay, this stock is getting ready to possibly fill this void, you know. And again, sometimes the fundamentals support, sometimes they don't, but that really doesn't matter because, you know, we focus on what's happening now. We're not about specifically predicting. We have some anticipatory concepts, and then we react to them depending on what's happening right now. So this is a list called Looking Toppy Now, share, and I am pasting it into the chat program where Scott can also cut and paste it to anyone's question. So here's that one. Then there's another one that I made specifically for this webinar. Hold on a second. So I was really looking at kind of something else where it's similar. Let me see if this is really the same. No, it's not the same. So Looking Toppy Now has some names that are similar to Cough, Cough, Sniff. These stocks just don't, the pattern right now looks like if you were looking at it, you would say, man, something's wrong. So that's kind of how I made this list. And again, you can see how I use the position and ranges to kind of formulate my game plan. And then the final thing is this sort, where I'm looking at the percentage of float that's traded. And again, this is a custom formula that we can give to anyone because I'm looking for interesting action here. And let's take a look at what we have and why, again, the software decided that these are the stocks that look like they're sick. So here's JetBlue, and you can tell, you know, we've already kind of covered this, but just had this nice range, and now just like coming home fever. Filled the void. We talked about this now. Remember, what I like is when things reinforce what we showcase to you for, again, for the educational purpose. Here you have a stock that gapped up, and watch what happens when the void starts getting filled. You have a little volatility, but if you can stomach it, I mean, complete void fill and reversal of the trend. So it looks sick. That's why we have cough, cough, sniff. Okay, Zion Bancorp. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. You know, this is, it's again one of the more trickier kind of things to trade when you have a stock that just turns very quickly. But that's how we're identifying. I mean, this is not that far away from being in this uptrend, but it's looking sick right now. Okay, let's keep going. So here you have a move, a consolidation where nothing was happening, and then it's breaking down and it's building another base. Now, two things can happen here, of course, and that's why this one, I mean, I'm just bringing it up to show you how we just quickly kind of make the decisions. The bottom line is nothing to do until it either breaks here or starts to go higher. So you can trade, again, you can make a note to go in either way. And one of the reasons why I'm kind of talking about this, we're about to put on a new version that allows you to add alerts, your own custom price alerts to any trade ideas list. So from now on, every single one of these things I'm telling you, you can put into a specific alert that's going to be triggered on trade ideas, and it's like you become your own AI. So it's going to be really cool. I really encourage everybody to upgrade, check that out, and if not, it's going to be, that alone will be worth the price of admission. So, okay, Halliburton. You know, on the daily, it was in this kind of trend, and here, notice how it's just, it broke out of here, and now it's trying to form another base, but it's lower. So those are the things that we say as kind of looking sick. And again, you can sort and resort by various position and ranges. So here, I see things that are kind of, you know, maybe a little bit weaker on the 20-day, but relatively strong for the year. So this is, again, how I go back and forth and back and forth. So here, you have stocks that are on like very close to 20-day lows, but if you look at where they are for the year ranges, you're seeing like they're kind of at support. But certainly, you want to be catching these to the downside, and this is what this looks like. You know, boom. There's another one. The beauty of this approach, okay, of using the range approach, is that it really puts you perfectly into position to not only, again, be aware of the things that are weak and strong, but really pick your spots, because there's so many opportunities, right? And the key is attention and focus on the best ones. So with the new limit feature and these lists, you really just cannot go wrong. It's the best combination of investment exploration that you can have in today's market. Okay, and then again, see where I mean, notice here, if you had bought this here, okay, you could have caught an incredible move to the upside. So we are also looking for the, you know, just because a stock looks sick does not mean it necessarily has to then trade down. Again, you try, you fail, you stop quickly, you try again, and that is it. It's that simple. So Scott, let's have you pop in for a second. I'm gonna get a quick drink of water, then I'll come back. I'll answer questions and go over the AI with people.
Yeah, all right, sounds good. If everyone could please direct their questions to the questions panel, and Dan will get to that as soon as he comes back from grabbing a beverage. As always, we'd like to thank everyone for showing up by giving a product code that lets you save some money. If you look at this code here, it's Office14, all capitals, and if you use that on checkout, you can take half off your first month, 25% off your first year, or 30% off of the OddsMaker AI lifetime license. So that means that you can pick up the AI for, you know, it lets you save an immediate $330 off of that $1,100 cost. So you can get in at just $770. Or you can try your first month for $49. You can find a printable version of this in your handouts panel on your GoToWebinar interface. There's a PDF titled Specials for December 14th, 2015. But it's actually the next slide. that we want to show you that we're really excited about. And we're going to be providing this offer through January, or maybe not for the entire month of January, but it will be expiring at some point early in the new year. But right now it lets you save $700 immediately by picking up the full year of Trade Ideas, which is $888, and the Lifetime OddsMaker AI license, which is $1,100. You can get both together for just $1,288. So it's the most outstanding way to save money that we currently offer. You can go to that link that you see. It's a bit.ly link, so it's a short URL, bit.ly/SAVE 700. So something that's been very popular for our existing members is if they're already on a monthly, they're able to pick up and upgrade from the monthly package to have the AI and the odds maker by purchasing this and then emailing us and letting us know that you went ahead and did the upgrade. It's a fantastic way to get into using the AI. If you have any questions about this at all, just go ahead and ask that in the questions panel as well. And the year of Trade Ideas will renew at $888, and you'll be grandfathered in for life as long as your account is active, even when we do eventually raise that annual rate next year sometime. So act now. Dan?
Thank you, Scott. I'm going to answer a couple of questions. I'm going to talk just a little bit about what you're seeing here. I mean, guys, we're basically, with this project, we're giving you access to the artificial intelligence for free, especially when you're amortizing it over, a year or something like that. We're so excited about what's happening that we believe, again, that this is the complete future, and we're not talking about, that stuff that I want to kind of talk a little bit about what we do versus what you may be hearing about in terms of like robo advisors and things like that. So I'm going to come back to, again, this 1288 is very important. I'm going to come back to it. But let's talk a little bit about alpha, robo-advisors, and our AI. So today, the AI had, let's see, 4 trades. There's only 1 winning trade on the short strategy. It was a very challenging day for statistical type of trading. So just again, so the way Holly works and the way you have access to her, and this is, again, when I say Holly, Holly is the name of our AI engine, sort of like what you hear of Siri or Cortana. Ours is Holly. Once you purchase, once you have access to the odds maker, that's like a key to the AI. I want to talk about what is the odds maker, how that works, just so everyone understands real quick, just a quick test. So you can take any idea that you have on Trade Ideas, and what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do something better. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. I mean, this is really taking Q&A kind of to the next level, but you can take a top list in Trade Ideas. I can right-click, and I can go to Collaborate, and I can say copy the settings, the filter settings. Then I can go to File. I can say New Alert Window. Okay, I can say, okay, so this is my window that I just selected, and then I can collaborate the settings that I had for my list into this window. And here you have looking toppy now is now an alert concept. So now that I see this as an alert concept, I'm going to get a trigger for looking toppy. So I'm going to get rid of this heartbeat, and I'm going to say, I'm going to find like a negative event. Let's say cross below the 20-day. How about that? And just, again, just the concept. So maybe I'm going to use the 20-day as a trigger for this strategy. So looking toppy now, 20-day cross. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to show you that anything that you do in Trade Ideas, you can kind of see if you can, if it's working by just doing history. And here, it's very possible. There were no alerts today at all for this for this trade or for this stock. So let me take a look. I'm going to backtest strategy. I'm going to go simulate sell and see what's going on. Again, this is, by the way, this is if this is what it is, this is a great lesson. Sometimes you do stuff like when you filter and you realize, wow, I made a mistake. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. I made a mistake. I over-filtered. There's no trade. So that trigger for the 20-day moving average, that was not a good trigger for this strategy. So I'm going to do something else. How about I will say 30, because 30-minute low. Again, showing weakness. And I'm going to change the name. So this is why people get access to the odds maker. Okay, so here you have a stock, and I'm going to configure it, and you can just kind of see, to be less intimidated by things, just make things smaller. Again, I'd gotten a lot of stuff from my alert window, but here, see price, change from the close, okay. I'm going to add the time because I want to know when this took place. And this is what a signal would look like possibly. Okay, so here's your timestamp, your symbol, your price, and what was going on. So if I go to history, and I'm going to go to today, you can see these are all the stocks that were looking toppy, right? And there was quite a few of them, right? So we got to figure out, well, is this something that I would want to trade? Like what does the market tell me about my idea? And here, so we're in the process of getting that answer. So what you're seeing here is the odds maker getting an answer to a question that would otherwise cost you a hell of a lot of money to figure out and take you probably a couple of years of either anecdotal or systematic script writing. That's the advantage of trade ideas. We just do what you would have to do otherwise and take forever. You can do it in seconds. Okay, so here we're seeing that, okay, it starts off because the market was kind of bullish. It started off being terrible, and then the strategy kind of got better and better and better. So it's possible that this is even a base strategy that we could give to Holly, our AI, to see if she could improve and get to something that's tradable. So this is what our AI does. It takes that information that I just showed you and creates strategies out of it. So the strategies that we had today were 2 shorts and 1 long. And the reason is, you know, those were the only ones that were statistically viable enough. Because, again, I want to talk to that surfing example. You cannot surf every single minute of every single day. And, you know, and again, a lot of people just sit there and watch. They wait for their sets. This is what our AI is doing. And the way she was waiting for her set is statistically. So if I right-click, okay, and I go to columns, what I can do here is I can go to the bottom of our AI window, and I can add the win percentage that was used and the profit factor that was used. Where did it go? So that we can see why this strategy was selected. So in historical testing, okay, so up until today's trading, this is how these strategies performed historically and why Holly thought that they would possibly be worth trading. But today, which was a brand new day, I mean, it was just not to be. The shorts, there was fear of the bounce, and the longs, it was the opposite. That happens. And one of the things that I was talking about with one of my very good friends is we talked about how doctors, he's a surgeon, and he was talking to me about how doctors train for surgery. So what you have is an experienced surgeon, this is Holly, who is performing the operation, and they usually have their younger assistants scrub in next to them, but then there's a cadre of surgeons who are up at the top that are looking through the glass because they're watching as the experienced surgeon is cutting, making all the incisions the right way, and they're seeing what it is that you have to do. And this, Holly Holly is that experienced surgeon. But as you know from watching enough shows and just understanding statistics, even when you have an amazing surgeon, the results are not always guaranteed to be positive because the market is different every single day. And what we use is a statistical approach, which is by far the best. But I just want to make sure that everyone understands there's not a guarantee of the magic bullet, super penny stock millionaire formula, which doesn't exist. So that's the key. So that's what you need to understand. These were the trades that we had today. Okay, and you can see what happened. But part of what you're also seeing is this, with the AI, is the systematic approach of getting in, knowing where your stops are instantly by using our smart stop technology, which is at every single window, and you have that ability to see it. So Trade Ideas gives you that whole circle. You're seeing what the best statistical mind is going to try to trade. That's here. You have the windows for your own discretionary trading, which are right here. And then you have smart stops and a full human support system. I don't know of what there is that could be better in today's market for capturing alpha. You know, we talked about the fact that alpha hides where you're not looking. You know, it's looking at stocks where the volume isn't, you know, all 100 million. You have to be doing something different. And we are the only ones that are doing that different thing for you. Okay, so Mark, good question. How does Holly decide to exit a trade? There's two ways that she does it. There's a time stop. In other words, we are assuming that Holly is exiting every single position at the end of the day because she is averse to overnight risk, much like many people are. And we say that, you know, don't try to just paint people into corners of day traders or swing traders. It's a silly, it's a limiting thing to do. You're just an investor. How much you hold a position strictly depends on your risk tolerance, nothing more. If you have profit, it's easier to hold. If you have a bigger account, it's easier to hold. If you do not, it's harder to hold because, again, the less room you have for error, the fewer risks you can take. So we don't use trailing stops. We're actually we're adding some profit-taking capability very shortly. But Mark, what we're using is smart stops, which adjust. They're kind of like a trailing stop, but it's adjusted for volatility and range. And you can see them, you know, again, every time there's a trade, the smart stop adjusts. So we use that for risk measurement, and then the time exit is the other reason for why Holly exits the trade. It's either going to be whatever it is that the time stamp of this pattern is. It's either 60 minutes, 2 hours, maybe the whole day. Just whichever one the statistics have the highest probability for. Okay. Okay, so Harry was asking me about my experience trading 20 years ago, and I was one of the original SOS bandits. I traded for a long time, and again, that time was a completely different environment. We traded what's called the Four Horsemen: Intel, Cisco, Dell, and Microsoft. You could trade those all day, and then eventually it got bigger where you had the applied materials and stuff. But it was a different time because we had a network advantage. People that had access to the SOS network really had an advantage over market makers because of the way price is set up. In a weird way, it's kind of like, imagine if we were moving in super slow motion, and what we were doing is sort of what HFT firms are trying to do today in some of the stocks that afford HFTism, which is fewer and fewer. Okay, so Ricky, I think Scott could probably paste the link to upgrade, but if you go to Trade Ideas, there's a version. There's usually a new version out all the time. Terry, my pleasure. So what I want to do again is I just kind of want to go back to this and why I personally, you know, my personal take on it, okay? So listen, you know, everyone is being told, if you don't listen to Just Trade Ideas or follow us on Twitter, you know, you're constantly being told you can't time the markets, give it, and you're being told that by people that want your money. You know, they don't want you to time the market. They want you to pay them fees so that they can manage your money for you. But this goes back to my whole notion of robo-advice and the things that are popular and things that you really need to understand. All these people are, by far, all they do is attempt to unsuccessfully match the averages, you know. But if you really want to just do the averages, I suggest simply buy the S&P, SPY ETF and walk away. That's average. You're going to do just average, and it's free. ETF SPY equals average. But we're here for alpha, you know. We're here to find things like DEST. You know, I'm going to just real quick come over here. You know, this, I mean, I don't know. Scott will tell you, and Barry too. I've been talking about this name since like 7. You know, I constantly tell you guys, this is what alpha looks like, and you will not be hearing about this on CNBC. Look at this. Okay, this is what we are hunting. I mean, if you want to know what the elusive white whale is, these are the percentage moves. This is what we want. From 6, you know, you're all talking about 40% in a month with no pullbacks whatsoever. They exist. You just have to know where to see them. You have to open your eyes, okay? And, you know, with us, our whole point is artificial intelligence, the people, and, you know, this is the thing that's by far the biggest product growth that we've had. This is what people want to see because they don't want to be tinkering underneath the BMW, you know, to get it to work. You just want the BMW. And this is what Holly's doing. We're providing you the framework for the best way to capture alpha in today's market through the calls during the day and through the lists that are surrounding it. So, Scott, I think, again, for me, that's all that I wanted to really cover. And if there's any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, great presentation. If there's any more questions, please ask in the questions panel.
Let's see, Lynn. We're working on getting the AI on the web-based version. It just hasn't happened yet because we're still kind of, you know, adding features to it, but it's going to happen soon.
Yeah, and you can also run trade ideas in VMware or Parallels with a Windows emulator. A lot of our Mac users do that quite successfully.
Yeah.
Our CTO does all of his work and testing on a Mac. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
Please, again, please vote for us in the Benzing Award, and we're looking to get on Shark Tank. So if you're on Twitter and you see me post about it, Twitter retweet. We appreciate that. Got to get Mark Cuban's attention so I can get on a fight on TV.
Yeah, follow Dan at Trade Ideas 1. That's his Twitter handle you see on your screen right there.
Yep. Guys, thank you very much for coming and seeing us. There's going to be more from us. This is the place to catch alpha. No BS, no nothing but real people doing the real stuff. And we hope to see you. And if you haven't taken advantage of this offer, please do so because, again, things are moving quick.
Yep, go ahead. That URL was bit.ly/SAVE700. It's all capitals. And you also get a follow-up email with this and a link to the recording within about 1 day. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Scott.